Hey there, I'm Christy Wilhelmy from Garden Nerd. It's the end of the season, and that usually means it's time to put up the harvest. Now, what that looks like for tomatoes is canning, and sometimes it's blanching and freezing some vegetables, but for herbs it can be a little tricky because herbs like rosemary and sage, they dry pretty well. If you wanted to dehydrate them, they taste fairly similar when they're fresh and when they're dry. So that's a really good technique for those herbs. But when it comes to the tender herbs like cilantro and parsley and basil, it can be a little more tricky because you can store them in your house in a vase with maybe a plastic bag over the top of them in water, and that will last maybe at best a week, but usually basil starts to turn a little bit dark and get a funny taste to it after even a few days, even if you wrap it in a paper towel and put it in the fridge. So the best thing to do is to process them in some way. I have 3 techniques that I want to share with you that will make it so that you can have the flavor of fresh herbs like these all winter long and into spring. The first technique is probably the most well-known, and that is, of course, making pesto. Pesto is easy. You mix it, you can make a vegan version or you can mix it with cheese and some nuts. You can use pine nuts or almonds or walnuts or whatever. There's a really great recipe in Gardening for Geeks if you're looking for pretty much the best pesto recipe out there. And basically I make big batches of pesto and then I freeze them in jars. Don't fill them all the way up or else the jars explode. We know about that. Expansion, freezing, etc. So, give some headspace, close them up, put them in the freezer. I've got about 10 jars of these in my big freezer out in the garage. The second way to do it is if you don't want to have all of those ingredients in there, you just mix the herb of choice in a blender with some olive oil and then pour it into a plastic bag, lay it flat, and freeze it that way. This one's been in there a while. And then all you need to do is break off a piece and throw it in whatever you're cooking. But that's if you're okay with using oil. So if you don't want anything else in your herbs, then it's time to get out the ice cube trays. And as I was joking with my husband when we were talking about this, that this is pretty much a 60-cent solution. So even if you have an automatic freezer, or an automatic ice maker in your freezer like we do, ice trays are like $1 away, really. So the best thing to do is wash your herbs and spin them dry. You don't have to get them dry because you're just going to be adding water to them in the ice cube trays. It's a really good idea to put at least a tablespoon or whatever you decide, a teaspoon, a tablespoon, whatever, a quarter cup. Use the same amount in each ice cube tray, or in each little ice cube cell. And the next thing to know is stick to one type of herb per tray. Otherwise, it gets confusing because these all start to look the same once they freeze. Now, of course, you'll know that basil does turn black when it freezes, but it still has the same flavor and it will be preserved. So basically, you're gonna take your herbs, and even the stems work really well for this. You're gonna fold it in half and chop it up. Just take the stems off of your basil. You don't need to do that with the cilantro and parsley because those stems are not as pungent or fibrous as basil. So just pull these off into the salad spinner. I also do not preserve these guys because they're also pretty pungent late in the season. After you wash them, just dump them out onto your cutting board. Gather up the leaves into a pile, or if you want to chiffonade, you can line them all up perfectly. I'm not going to do that. And then give them a nice starter dice. Then get your ice cube tray and a tablespoon and scoop about a tablespoon into each tray. Once you've distributed your herbs into the ice cube trays, just top them off with a little bit of water and put them in the freezer. after these freeze, you can take them out, pop them out of their trays, put them into containers, either freezer containers or freezer bags, and label them again and put them in your freezer. And then you just pop them into any dish you need, because, you know, think about it, a tablespoon, 4 tablespoons to a 1/4 cup, 8 tablespoons to a 1/2 cup. It's pretty easy to measure out if you use tablespoons in each tray. I don't know about you, but I hate growing stuff and bringing it in from the harvest, cleaning it and putting it in the fridge only to throw it away a couple of weeks later. I hope you do too, and I hope that you implement these 3 different techniques that I showed you today to make your herbs last longer so you can enjoy them all winter long. If you like this video, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe, and consider becoming a Patreon subscriber to support all the free stuff we do here at Garden Nerd. You'll find a lot of information that I talked about today on the blog at gardennerd.com, and of course our famous basil pesto recipe in Gardening for Geeks. So don't forget to check that out. Happy gardening, and thanks for watching.